Farm Week is a production of the Mississippi State University Extension Service.
Today on Farm Week, rice farmers who missed the first deadline have another chance to take part in the $750 million Liberty Link settlement.
The Mississippi Forestry Association bestows its highest honors at its annual meeting in Jackson.
The Wood Magic Science Fair teaches Mississippi elementary students about forestry.
In southern gardening, pumpkins and gourds. There's much more variety than you might think.
In the markets, one private analyst predicts U.S. corn yields will hit an 8-year low as U.S. catfish processing and prices continue to head in opposite directions.
In the feature segment, Kevin Harrison, the new Mississippi Forestry Association Outstanding Logger of the Year. Harrison treats everything with respect, both the land and his crew. They haven't had a lost time accident since the business started 27 years ago.
You cannot have enough safety. I mean, everybody out here, you know, you spend 8, 10, 12 hours a day with somebody, you know, you become like family. But there's no amount of money, you know, in the world that can bring somebody back if something happens.
Good day, everyone. I'm Leighton Spann.
And I'm Artis Ford. Welcome to Farm Week.
The deadline has been extended for rice farmers to file in the Bayer Crop Science Liberty Link settlement.
Leighton, the original deadline had been October 10th, but Bayer has extended it to Monday, November 21st. It's important for enough rice farmers to participate. Farmers who planted rice every year from 2006 to 2010 are eligible. Go to the website gmricesettlement.com to apply for the compensation. In order for the $750 million settlement to take effect, farmers who represent at least 85% of the average acres planted during that time must apply. If the 85% threshold is not met, Bayer can walk away from the settlement. We will have that link on our Farm Week website, farmweek.msucares.com. The problem began when Bayer's experimental Liberty Link genetically engineered rice was found in 2006 to have made it into the U.S. rice crop.
Last week on Farm Week, we introduced Mississippi's Outstanding Tree Farmer of the Year in our feature story. Charles Dismukes of Kilmichael officially received that award October 20th during the 2011 annual meeting of the Mississippi Forestry Association. Dismukes' two sons, Brian and Barry, and their families, and his wife Carolyn, all joined him in Jackson for the announcement.
And we are all tree farm families. There's two of our families live on a tree farm now, and the others, they don't live very far away. And every member of the family has worked on this tree farm in one way or the other. Particularly the grandsons, they like all that. They like the recreation part of it, the hunting and fishing and all that.
Also recognized at the association's President's Banquet was Harrison Logging of Grenada, MFA's Outstanding Logger of the Year in Mississippi. You'll find out about this large operation a bit later in this week's Farm Week feature story.
Harrison Logging, like I say, is a family-owned and operated business and has been for more than 20 years. And I feel that is one reason that we are successful as we are today. I mean, because I treat my employees just like they family. I mean, because that's the way it is.
Receiving the 2011 Meritorious Service to Forestry Award from the MFA at the meeting was Dr. Steve Dickey. Dr. Dickey is Extension Forester for Southwest Mississippi and interim head of Mississippi State's Central Mississippi Research and Extension Center. Forestry is Mississippi's second biggest agricultural industry, but in spite of that, many young people don't know much about it. To try and fill this knowledge gap, Mississippi State University's College of Forest Resources opens its doors to elementary schools for the Wood Magic Science Fair. Thousands of young people learn how wood products help shape their daily lives and that forests are a sustainable resource. Farm Week's Amy Taylor reports.
A Mississippi State event that's known for being fun and educational continues to showcase Mississippi forestry. Dan Sill, MSU Forest Products professor, says the Wood Magic Science Fair began in the early 1990s.
I got a request from a local teacher to come do a tour of the Forest Products Laboratory. And they came and toured around, and one of the little angelic little faces on one of the little girls looked at me and said, "Well, all you're doing is cutting down all the trees and destroying the environment." So I carried that back to faculty meeting, and the faculty basically said, well, if that's what the kids think, that's probably what the parents think, and that's something that we could do something about as a department.
Since then, the event has drawn crowds of 4,000 to as many as 8,000 each year. Assistant Forest Products professor Shane Kitchens says Wood Magic features a variety of activities.
They start by learning how many trees it takes to build a house. When we cut one tree down, they learn how many we plant back. We go through a sawmill where we show them how to take a log and cut it up into lumber. They learn some environmental issues. They learn some DNA, how we DNA analyze different wood. Then they learn about chemistry, and they learn about all the different things that's made out of wood, like vanilla, some additives in your toothpaste, things that we use every day. Then they go and learn about termites, and they learn how termites talk. They learn about furniture testing. We teach them how to tell the difference between red oak and white oak. With our bubble bazookas, which we blow bubbles through, and it teaches them cell structure in a fun way.
With this activity, students learn that red oak allows air to pass through and make the bubbles. When looking into the future, teaching about forestry and conservation is a way to help stabilize a highly important industry in Mississippi. From Mississippi State University, I'm Amy Taylor reporting.
Well, with fall in the air, every harvest display needs a pumpkin or two. And this week's Southern Gardening segment, Extension horticulturist Dr. Gary Bachman shows us some unusual pumpkins, squash, and gourds that will add seasonal interest.
Fall is in the air, and harvest-related displays must have a pumpkin or two. But there's a lot more to choose from than the traditional jack-o'-lantern. Today I'm at Courtney Farms in Ocean Springs, where the garden center has been transformed into a pumpkin patch. Pumpkins are a member of the cucurbit family that also includes squashes and gourds. Besides orange, colors include red, yellow, white, blue, and multicolored stripes. They can be miniature, flattened, necked, smooth, winged, and warty. The Cinderella pumpkin is a variety from France. It's rumored to have been the model for Cinderella's pumpkin carriage. This peanut pumpkin is a cross between a pumpkin and a Hubbard squash. The warty surface adds coarse texture to any display. Turban squash are a popular hat-shaped variety that Native Americans grew. It makes a good fall decoration with its unusual shape and multicolored stripes. While the large pumpkins get the most attention, mini pumpkins are very versatile. Pumpkimon has the white skin with orange vertical stripes, while Baby Boo is a snow white miniature. Gourds also come in amazing varieties. With wings and warts, these gourds are colorful and spectacular. The white crown of thorns gourd is an unusual fruit having 10 fingers pointing upward from the flower end. When making your purchase, be sure to inspect your pumpkin, squash, or gourd. They will last longer if there is no surface damage. Unfortunately, that includes carving. And believe it or not, most are delicious when baked or made into a pie. Pumpkin, squash, and gourds can add interest and beauty to any fall display. I'm Gary Bachman for Southern Gardening.
Gary says use your imagination and try some unusual pumpkins, squash, or gourds in your fall displays. Well, in the feature segment, Kevin Harrison, the new Mississippi Forestry Association Outstanding Logger of the Year. For Harrison looks out for the land and his employees. The crew has never had a lost time accident, which is pretty amazing.
It is amazing. Time
now for the markets with Leighton. And Leighton, you say we have some new snapshots of the beef and catfish industry.
That's right, artists, and those are obviously part of what's ahead in this segment. Looking at our headlines, more cattle in U.S. feedlots. U.S. catfish prices remain above 2010 levels, and Egypt imposes a cotton import ban. We begin in the beef sector, where the October 21st on-feed report from the government showed more cattle in our nation's feedlots. Extension Ag economist John Michael Riley provided some analysis of the new numbers on Thursday morning. John Michael, we had a little surprise in this on-feed report.
A surprise, but not out of the realm of reality. Cattle on feed, just over 11.3 million head. That's 4.9% above where we were at a year ago, and 1 percentage point higher than the analyst expectation. They were looking for that number to be 3.9% above 2010. Marketings were right on par with expectations. The bump actually comes from placements. Placements were on par with 2010, but analysts were looking for that number to be 3.5% below a year ago. Placements just under 2.5 million head reported in the on-feed report. So, not out of the realm of reality, especially given the weather environment that we're in the southern plains. We saw that if you look at placements by weight group, those cattle placed on feed under 600 pounds actually leading the pack in terms of the higher placements number, up 34%. All other weight groups were actually below a year ago, and collectively they were down about 9%. So again, given the current market environment and the weather environment that we're under, it's not the higher than expected placements and the higher than expected cattle on feed number, is understandable.
So an increased interest in placing calves into feedlots is what you're saying.
Exactly. Lighter weight cattle are going in, even though we got really high corn prices, largely driven by the fact that we're running out of grass and we need to get these cattle on feed.
So what does all this portend for the market as we head towards the end of the year?
Well, it definitely is going to push the number of cattle coming off feed, in the early spring, early to mid-spring, going to push that number a little higher than what we probably would have expected. But as we continue to move further into 2012, the latter half, it's definitely going to continue to put a pinch on the number of cattle coming off feed. So that's going to drive that number lower. But in the near term, it's probably going to be a bit of a tad push of up in supply.
So for most producers, you would say this is a good situation, bad situation? How would you paint this?
Well, again, in the near term, it's probably not the best situation, but it doesn't underscore the fact that we are in a supply crunch, and we continue to see that with each and every passing day.
The major monthly report on farm-raised catfish was released October 20th. It reflects activity from the month before. The average pond bank price being paid to U.S. producers in September was $1.28 per pound. That is 45 cents per pound higher than 1 year ago the same month. Farm sales, meanwhile, total just a hair over 30 million pounds round weight. That is a decrease of 23% from September 2010. Processor sales were almost 13.5 million pounds, down 34% from this time 1 year ago. Good exports continue to be a hallmark of the hog sector. Analyst Sue Martin says that China has been importing U.S. pork very aggressively. She notes that on top of that, our regular domestic customers of pork have been very good buyers as well.
I think the hog market still has a chance to push a little bit further here, and I would say to the pork producer, because of the uncertain climate that we seem to be in these days, maybe go ahead and get yourself some puts underneath you. I wouldn't do the futures. I'd do put strategies in the market. And I guess I would say I think the hog producer's in good times.
Well, we are in the season of pumpkins now. You saw them on Southern Gardening a moment ago, and that's the topic for trivia this week. Which state produces the most pumpkins in this country? Is it California, Ohio, Illinois, or Pennsylvania? You'll find out as we continue.
We're going to pause for a short break on Farm Week. Coming up, we'll look at the calendar in the second part of the markets. Leighton Spann report on the cotton market, and some believe 2011 corn yields will hit an 8-year low. In the feature segment today, Kevin Harrison of Grenada, the new Mississippi Forestry Association Outstanding Logger of the Year.
Each year, many Mississippians are seriously injured or killed when farm tractors overturn. Don't become a statistic. Avoid rollovers by staying away from steep ditches and pond banks. Slow down and operate tractors at a safe angle to the slope of the terrain. Always keep loader buckets low when transporting materials and inspect the work area for obstacles such as stumps, holes, or washes. A message from the Mississippi State University Extension Service.
Now, before we get back to the markets, let's look at the Farm Week calendar. A hardwood management field tour takes place Thursday, November 3rd. Location is the Mal Mason Wildlife Management Area off Highway 7 near Holcomb, Mississippi. Runs from 9 a.m. to 1:30 p.m. Registration is free and includes a brown bag lunch, but you need to register ahead of time with the Forestry Office of the Mississippi State University Extension Service. A biomass and bioenergy short course will be Thursday, December 8th. Location is the Grenada County office of the Mississippi State University Extension Service. It's for landowners, businesses, or local governments interested in learning about the basics and the economics of woody biomass energy. Registration fee is $35 per person or $50 per couple. You need to register by December 1st. We will have a link on the Farm Week calendar to help you. Go to our Farm Week website at farmweek.msucares.com for information on these and other events. Now it's time for this week's Farm Week Snapshot.
Cotton futures traded higher Thursday as global markets surged and the dollar plunged. Despite some crop struggles in the United States, world production is still forecast to be well in excess of projected world demand. Analyst Virgil Robinson advises producers they should be mindful of market history in November.
In the last 5 years, cotton futures have had a tendency to bottom in the month of November and then work irregularly higher into February, March. I think we'll follow that pattern again this year. So again, if you're in position financially to defer sales until the turn of the calendar or sometime in 2012, that's what I would suggest.
Private analysts with R.J. O'Brien and Associates this week issued their corn forecast ahead of the November 9th crop report. They project the U.S. corn harvest will be about 1.5% smaller than the government's last numbers. More significantly, O'Brien and Associates say average nationwide corn yields are heading for an 8-year low following an unusually wet spring and a hot summer in many parts of the United States. Well, returning now to our trivia quiz before this week's feature story, let's see how your choice panned out. And the answer this week is C. Illinois produces the most pumpkins in the United States. In this week's new feature story, you find out why Harrison Logging is the Mississippi Forestry Association's pick for Outstanding Logger of the Year. The most obvious reason is safety. The company has not had a lost time accident in the 27 years it's been in operation, but there are many other reasons why they are outstanding as well. Farm Week caught up with the Harrisons in late September while they were on a job in Oxford. This is one of the 4 harvesting crews operated by Harrison Logging of Grenada, Mississippi. This crew is managed by Kevin Harrison in the center. His father, Carl Harrison, on the right manages a second crew. Kevin's brother, Darren, on the left manages a third crew. And cousin Paul Harrison manages the 4th crew. Altogether, there are 27 employees. Darren Harrison says things were much different back when he joined the operation in 1992.
We had a bale cutter and a cable. It was all cable and chainsaw work then. We don't even own a chainsaw anymore. It's a big difference what it was then and is now.
Today, Harrison Logging operates a fleet of equipment that includes 7 skidders, 5 feller bunchers, 6 knuckle boom loaders, and 4 crew and service trucks. For each of the 4 harvesting crews, safety is always the top priority.
You cannot have enough safety. I mean, everybody out here, you know, you spend 8, 10, 12 hours a day with somebody, you know, you become like family. But there's no amount of money, you know, in the world that can bring somebody back if something happens.
Harrison Logging has never had a lost time accident since the business was started in 1984. Their perfect safety record can be attributed to ongoing training from the Mississippi Loggers Association, the Mississippi State University Extension Service, and other groups. Members of the Mississippi Forestry Association Timber Harvest Committee say the company's outstanding safety record, along with its use of best management practices or BMPs on timberland, are two reasons why Kevin Harrison was chosen the Outstanding Logger of the Year.
Probably one of the greatest attributes that we saw that was their flawless safety record. Been in the business for 27 years without a recordable accident. Not only that, but to talk about the BMP work that they do, and they hire a separate BMP contractor to do all their BMP work. You know, it's always, you know, a lot cheaper for them to do it themselves, but they figured out, well, you know, we can hire somebody and do somebody that specializes in it and does a good job of it.
And as most loggers know, when you get ready to move, you're in a hurry to move, and you won't do the BMP work like a contractor will. I mean, and I want to make sure all my clients are satisfied, and, you know, I mean, repeat business is where we get 90 to 95% of our work from.
This job at Goose Valley Ranch in Oxford, Mississippi is a good example of that repeat business. Harrison Logging is doing a second thinning on a tract of timber owned by Joe Huggins and his wife, Linda.
We feel like he just does an exceptional job. He takes care of the property. We have areas that we call signature spots, and he pays particular attention to them and does a fine job doing them however we want them to be. If we want to leave stuff, he works around it and just does a great job working with the landowner and taking the time and effort to really do a fine job.
Besides knowing the landowner's expectations before moving any equipment onto a job, Kevin Harrison develops a specific site management plan for his employees to follow while working there. This plan incorporates the principles of the Sustainable Forestry Initiative, as well as best management practices.
You've got to know where everything's going to be set up, where the road's going to be built, where the land is going to be built. We've got a program, my timber buyer, before we ever move on a job, that we got a topo map, aerial photograph. We to get with the landowner, see where he wants the roads, you know, and you need to know 2 days ahead of time before you ever move on a site. You got to have your plan laid out before you ever move on that job, know what you're gonna do. If you lose a day's downtime, I mean, you done lost several $1,000s if you waiting to try to figure out where you going, where you gonna move to.
Harrison Logging's concern for the environment is seen in all of their management practices. For example, landings are leveled by hauling tops and debris back into the woods with skidders. It is scattered over skid trails to minimize compaction of the soil. Fine debris that won't hold in the grapple is left on the landing to prevent soil exposure. Water bars and turnouts are installed on the roads after completion of a job. 2007 marked a turning point in the history of Harrison Logging. Before then, almost all of their timber was contracted with Weyerhaeuser and Georgia Pacific. Only 15% was purchased directly from landowners. But market changes in 2007 provided the company the opportunity to expand by purchasing more privately owned timber. This eventually led to the hiring of a full-time procurement forester by Harrison Logging.
The role that I play with Harrison Logging is strictly a procurement role. To be sure that the company maintains an inventory, a forest inventory that's large enough to keep all the Harrison crews running with wood. My responsibility covers pretty much everything from contacting any prospective seller of timber to the contracts that are involved in procuring timber or any county haul permits as necessary.
The wood from the thinning operation in Oxford is going 2 different directions. The chip and saw is being taken south about 30 miles to Weyerhaeuser and Bruce. The pine pulpwood is being hauled 124 miles northeast to the PCA Containerboard Mill in Counce, Tennessee. Carl Harrison, who started this logging business in 1984, says the distance wood has to be hauled now has increased dramatically from the 1980s.
Well, back then it was more mills and closer haul. If you hauled over 30 miles in, you was on a long haul. Now it's very common to haul wood 100 miles or better because of mills, there's not as many mills now.
Throughout its history, Harrison Logging has been an active member of the Grenada County Forestry Association. In May of 2011, they sponsored a CFA meeting on the economic impact of forestry. In other recent community involvement, they sponsored a logger education program last year in the county. This included providing a log truck to MDOT for a day for use in demonstrations to other loggers. With a flawless safety record, dedication to the use of best management practices, and a commitment to the industry, Harrison Logging is an undisputed leader in North Mississippi. From Oxford, Mississippi, I'm Leighton Spann reporting. And you can watch this story on Kevin Harrison and his family again on the Farmweek website, as well as our Facebook page or on YouTube. The website address is farmweek.msucares.com. Find us on Facebook and give a click on the like button if you feel so inclined. And artists, again, having their own procurement forester, again, that's kind of unusual, but it does help them achieve that efficiency they need when they're running 4 different crews.
Good story. Well, we are at the end of Farm Week for this week. On our next show, a farm that's still going strong after 115 years.
In our feature segment, Eubanks Produce of Loosedale, Mississippi. This farm has changed dramatically since it was first homesteaded in 1896. It has 1,000 acres of commercial vegetables ranging from strawberries to onions.
In Southern Gardening, Fall Mums. Find out how to grow and use their wonderful colors. You can buy them bursting with blooms or full of promising buds.
Also next week, the Mississippi State University Biofuels Conference. Much of the talk at this year's conference concerned the 4 companies who plan to use Mississippi wood fiber to make the next generation of biofuels.
For the rest of the Farm Week crew, I'm Artis Ford.
And I'm Leighton Spann. Thanks for watching. We'll be back next week.